I am Maestro Drake, and look, Jenna Ortega says that being politically correct, by being so, we lose a lot of our humanity integrity. Without even choosing sides, a celebrity has used his or her brain cells. That's nice. Also, rest in peace, Cartoon Network. Let's get that familiar music in there. So, what are we looking at tonight? This is the last X-Men story, but not really, right? It's an asterisk. This is X-Men Omega. And what it is this was a story that came out. Oh, let's take a look at the year. When was this? This is the special event. This is when they made foil covers to everything. Let's see if I can find it. Oh man, what year was this? Hold on, I will check the year. 1995, that crazy year, 1995. I think it was the summer. I think I was doing summer school in time for my senior year for graduation of high school. X-Men Days. This is not. When we think of X-Men, we do think of Days of Future Past. This was, in Days of Future Past, I remember that people were upset that it wasn't Kitty Pryde who traveled through time, but it's Hugh Jackman. It was Jennifer Lawrence, so they try to make money somewhere. This, there was X-Men: The End, and we've seen future tense. I mean, we've seen the beginnings, the humble beginnings. Like you look at Wolverine's origin, right? And then Ultimate X-Men. Ultimate X-Men. Still have this. The art by, I think, Andy Kubert and Mark Miller doing the writing. This is the beginning of their journey, right? This is the ending. Now, this was so popular. This series was so popular that they had their own action figures. Now, I'm not seeing the original 95s, but you had, here we are. These are the ones that you can only find them on eBay. Now, I do have Sabretooth and I do have Magneto, and these are some of the available ones. There's another one that I have that is actually a recent one from 2021 or 2020, and that was Jean Grey. And I don't think that's it. No, it had Sugar Man, or that one guy's head. So you had Jean Grey as well, but there were different figures. Oh, Gambit was part of the set too. Gambit from the original series. So they made newer versions. I don't know if there's like Toy Biz. This is the Toy Biz one. But for sure Hasbro, of course. Hasbro being the new custodian of all the Marvel figures. But these were those ones were the originals. So even though we have the Wikipedia, I without even looking at it, I know what it was about. Somehow Charles Xavier was murdered. So he never trained the X-Men. So we have an alternate future, much like Days of Future Past. But instead of Sentinels killing all the mutants and then there's a post-apocalyptic city, Charles is dead, so Magneto takes over the training, and Apocalypse is the ultimate bad guy. So it's Magneto versus Apocalypse instead of Charles Xavier, Professor X versus Magneto. And we're going to now look at the Wikipedia. It's a 1995 comic book crossover storyline mostly published in the X-Men franchise of books by Marvel Comics. The Age of Apocalypse briefly replaced the universe of Earth 616 and had ramifications in the main Marvel Comics. When the original timeline was restored, it was later retconned as having occurred in the alternate universe of Earth 295. I don't fucking know any of this. So during the entirety of the Age of Apocalypse event, the regularly published X-Men comics were replaced by the new X-Men-related miniseries focusing on various teams and individuals. So you had Excalibur, Gambit, and the X-Ternals, Generation Next, Astonishing X-Men, Amazing X-Men, Weapon X, Factor X, X-Man. And there's so many. X-Universe. Holy shit. Then you had Alpha. You was bookended by 2 one-shots, X-Men Alpha and X-Men Omega, which is this one. And we'll take a look at the inside of it. The storyline starts with Legion, a psychic. Oh, David Haller. I was thinking of David, Charles's son. Charles had a son named David, at least in the Ultimate Universe. Legion, a psychotic mutant who traveled back in time to kill Magneto before he can commit various crimes against humanity. Legion accidentally kills Professor Charles Xavier, his father, leading to a major change in the timeline. The death of Professor Xavier leads Apocalypse to attack 10 years sooner than he did in the original timeline, taking control of Earth and altering everything that happened from that point forward. Apocalypse is opposed by several factions of mutant resistance, including a group led by Magneto. The group manages to send the mutant Bishop back in time to prevent the murder of Professor Xavier, undoing the entire timeline. In 2005, Marvel published an Age of Apocalypse one-shot, a miniseries to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the fan-favorite event. The book looks at what happened after the end of the original story, revealing that the timeline became, in fact, an alternate Earth. Designated 295, the Dark Angel Saga in 2011 revisited the ultimate reality once more, leading to the Age of Apocalypse ongoing series launched in 2012 that ran for 14 issues. The world was also featured as part of Marvel's 2015 Secret Wars. So they didn't get rid of all this stuff. They kept it going. Is this true? In the film Deadpool and Wolverine, Deadpool travels to the Age of Apocalypse timeline to recruit their version of Wolverine, but is brutally attacked by him. Because remember that Wolverine has just one hand, and the other hand no. So let's take a look at the comic book. At a time when foil covers were the thing, and not only is it's foil all the way around, so it's a special cover. I mean, this is just like the final chapter of things. I mean, back then you had some great artists. Look at this. This is 90s art. You can tell this is 90s art. I mean, there was Heroes Reborn. There was Jim Lee, Jay Lee, Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane. You had like the pornographic heroines like Evangeline, Lady Death, the Second Coming of Vampirella. There was all this was the 90s was a different time. It was for men. You know, there was no wokeness. There were no transgender characters. I think Fathom was pregnant one time, but I don't remember. I mean, quote me on that, but. Yeah, I think Fathom was pregnant. Fall down, Magnus. Maybe make it easier on all of us. Yeah, this is the final battle between Apocalypse and Magneto. Roger Cruz pencils. We know Mark Waid's still around. Scott Liddell. Okay, so here he is here. This is neat. This is what 90s art is all about. Right here. Look at that. That's neat. So yeah, so Magneto is the one time the real good guy here. Sitting upon his throne is Apocalypse. Now, in one version, we've seen Apocalypse in the cartoons, in the 90s cartoons. We have seen him in X-Men Age of Apocalypse. Probably not a great representation, but there he was. In Ultimate Universe, he was a figment of Mr. Sinister's imagination, but maybe not. Maybe he could see Apocalypse and no one else could. But here he is, real, a real being that sits on a throne. You're fooling yourself, Apocalypse. Yeah, this was a different take on the X-Men. I think they were trying to go for new energy because the X-Men was really hitting it at the time that this comic book came out, the 90s, right? Since 1991, 1992, you had X-Men toys. There were so many X-Men action figures as there were Star Wars action figures. Anybody who collected Toy Biz back then, you saw so many X-Men action figures. So many X-Men action figures. I think there was even a Danger Room play set. And you had the X-Jet, you had Professor Xavier, you had Mojo, you had MODOK, you had everybody in there, in that X-Men line. There were so many X-Men action figures, so many. I mean, we're talking about the 90s. Forget, not even Hugh Jackman or Patrick Stewart. Nothing yet. This was the 90s roster from based on the cartoon and then the comic books. That was a lot. Here we see Warren. So Warren is got Angel and then Angel's girlfriend Karma. This is the kind of story now. This kind of thing you kind of roll up your eyes at if they try to do this today because there's so many post-apocalypse stories. But back then, to do post-apocalypse type scenes or movie scenarios, this was brand new. This is new stuff. Look at how bright these colors are and the way that the proportions are, the square jaws, the sort of the way everything is like, everybody's like 6 or 7 feet tall looking in this, So destroyed cities. That's because Apocalypse is a bastard. This is the kind of thing you don't see it very often. You don't see that. So it's a touching scene. And of course, here we got, this is where you could turn the comic book on its side. So please turn your comic book sideways. And here we got, here's the roster of people. Iceman's on the top left, right? So you got top left, you got Rogue. And Rogue is looking less like, because Anna Paquin wasn't cast. Anna Paquin wasn't cast yet, but you had a less big-haired, not 6 foot tall, like swimsuit model Rogue. You got over here, you got Colossus. You have, what the hell is that? Destiny? Is that his name? Yeah, Destiny. I don't know whatever happened to him. You got Nightcrawler. Oh, Destiny's the one, the cloak. There's Nightcrawler, and to his left is Jubilee. There's Gambit, he has his own action figure. Blink, there's Shadowcat with the blonde hair. Quicksilver, Bishop. This is the roster. To this day, and this day, win or lose, they fight their final battle. So it was a mini series. This was their X-Men. This was Magneto's X-Men. And there you have Scott Summers and Jean Grey. Jean Grey did not get her own action figure until probably the Hasbro era. And here is Nathan Summers. Look at this 90s art where everybody had everybody looked 2D, but then they still had a 3D look to them. Does that make sense? So they still had a 3D look, but they looked 2D, the silhouettes. This is, you saw this art and you knew it was 90s art. There's the bad guys there, a skeleton, a giant case. Not Onslaught, not to be confused with Onslaught, because Onslaught was Magneto, or not Magneto. Onslaught was Professor X. And there's a little girl that the power to change the course of history. And here's, I think that Grant Morrison might have stolen a little bit of this for JLA Rock of Ages. And that chance, little one, lies solely within you. I cannot command you to help us, child. I can only tell you that we cannot create this better place without you. So this is on her to really make a difference. What, the bombs, Scott? They've unleashed the bombs. Yeah, Jean Grey looks great. And yeah, so I guess Phoenix isn't unleashed. We don't know how the extent of what the Dark Phoenix would have been. I think they were holding on to the explanation that Dark Phoenix was it was Madeline, and Jean was Jean, right? So they wanted to go with the explanation that Jean Grey never died. It was her clone, Madeline. That was some things. Barry Allen had not come back to the DC universe, neither did Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan was crazy and evil and stuff like that. There were a lot of things that were going on in the 90s. And here they fight. They fight and they fight and they fight and they fight. Over the thunder of battle, the X-Men scream commands to one another. They cannot possibly be heard. So there's a lot going on. There's Sabretooth in the back here. Magneto suits up. What does he say? As a child, I heard the very same babble from a Berlin house painter. In a madman whose Aryan race tried to wipe out all it deemed dirty or impure. And do you remember who won the war? He began. The war who rose in righteous triumph to overthrow the strong once and for all. Look at that. Your day, Apocalypse, has indeed come. So this is the whole Apocalypse versus Magneto. I believe he would still do this. And he probably has. And later, like in the correct version, he probably has. And here, Bishop meets Bishop. So a lot's happening here. This is Blink, I think. So people are dying. Now, this is actually, she is actually Colossus's brother, Peter's brother, or I'm sorry, sister. I'm getting fucked up here. This is his sister, Piotr. We did it. Mr. Bishop is, forgive me, sister. I thought I was the bravest of all, and then I met you. I am so scared. Please give me courage and hold me while I... So, yeah, it's a dark future. Everybody's dying. I mean, this is all cliche, but back then, you know, he said he was scared. And now I am too. Wow, that's a different thing. And at last it ends. In your mind, I saw tomorrow. It was terrible, terrible. It was my fault. Just tried to fix things. Give my father his dream. Never meant to screw it up. I know, David. But you did. You turned it into a nightmare. And now, as your own energies consume you, you pay the price for your folly. I too fade, and with me, my all memories of your crime. You had the potential to be the greatest of us all, David. Instead, twisted with hatred, you squandered your power. Your father would not be proud. Yeah, David was an asshole, especially in the Ultimate X-Men. What's happening, Charles? So Charles is alive, so that's important. And they're seeing what's going on. So there's Eric Magnus, Eric Landshear. And then this is the countdown, I think. This is 2, 1, 0. So at the very end, everything gets wiped out. Here is his wife. His wife is Rogue. His wife is Rogue. Everything depends on Bishop. Do you think he was able to set things right? We can hope. If we have earned nothing else, we have earned that right. And I would never have believed that until I met you, I would have, beloved, that hope would be so dear to me. But then a good man once gave me faith that all things were possible. So, yeah, so that's his wife and child. And then here's the last scenes. He preached a dream of harmony and told me that at any dream worth living was a dream worth fighting for. He taught me well. Had I these long years to live over again, I might have made other choices. I might have done things, many things differently. But I would never have stopped fighting for the dream. That is your legacy, Charles Xavier. Now, as I hold my family to me before the end, I thank you for changing my life. And that's it, 0. And here is the back. And I'll say that this is probably, I mean, in some ways it's better than Days of Future Past. In some ways, not. And there was another one, The End X-Men, The End Chapters. I don't know what that one was about. There's Sabretooth. There's Bishop. There is Colossus. Looks like the Chameleon there, doesn't it? Right there. But yeah, this was such a roller coaster. I'll give this one a score of a 9 out of 10. I mean, it was the best ending you could ever ask for, really. And I'm sure there's trades for it. I mean, you can find it on Kindle. I'm thinking. And I'm hoping when we get to Secret Wars that we deal with this problem, because if we don't, then it's not Secret Wars, right? What are we going to do about that? So yeah, 9 out of 10. I'll give it an A. I'll give it a solid A. I think it was worth it. I think it was worth the time and the effort. These are the days when this is what a 90s comic book looks like, boys and girls, and they, them. This is what a 90s comic looks like. It's a very 90s comic indeed. And I think in some ways I think between the cartoon, right, and the first couple of years of like with Uncanny X-Men and X-Men, and then this is the best of the 90s. You know, I'm not sure. I think Days of Future Past was in the 80s. But it really shone. I mean, you had to like weed past the gimmicky, the foil covers and holographic covers and all that shit to find some really good stories. Maximum Carnage was okay. Maximum Clonage from Spider-Man was maximum garbage. And Hulk had some good stories. Everybody was like jacked. I mean, you look at Colossus. Look how jacked he looks. I mean, that's a muscular Colossus right there. So that's it for now. Stay strong, stay focused, true believers. Crap.